We're going to open the Clackamas County Development Agency budget for discussion and begin with the election of a chair. Is there a motion?
I nominate Chris Hartson as chair of the 2018-19 Clackamas County Development Agency Budget Committee.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we elect Chris Hartson as the chair of the Development Agency Budget Committee. Any further discussion? Any further proposals? With that, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, the gavel's yours.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'll now call for nominations for vice chair.
I nominate Fred Charlton as Vice Chair of the Development Agency Budget Committee for the 2018-2019 budget.
Second. It has been moved and seconded that Fred Charlton be elected vice chair. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. The ayes have it, and Fred Charlton is elected vice chair of the Budget Committee. I'll now call for nominations for secretary.
I nominate Blaine Scowhedy as Secretary of the Development Agency Budget Committee for 2018-2019 budget.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that Blaine Scowhedy be elected secretary. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. The ayes have it, and Blaine Scowhedy is elected secretary of the Budget Committee. I'll now ask Dave Queener, Program Supervisor of the Development Agency, to present the 2018-19 budget.
I'm going to butt in here. We have a half hour, which means you have 15 minutes, and the remainder of it is for questions.
Right.
Thank you.
That'll take 15, but I'll be here as long as you need me. Good morning. As you mentioned, my name's Dave Queener. I'm the Program Supervisor for the Clackamas County Development Agency, and I'm pleased to present to you our 2018-19 budget for the Development Agency. The purpose of our agency is to implement our urban renewal program, and that is to provide capital improvements, development opportunities, and neighborhood enhancement programs to benefit residents, businesses, and visitors in and around the urban renewal areas so they can enjoy an economic and socially vibrant community. We are housed within the Department of Transportation and Development. As you see there, we're considered a targeted improvement area within that department. We do have 3 urban renewal areas that we are responsible for implementing. That's Clackamas Town Center Urban Renewal Area, the Clackamas Industrial Area, and the North Clackamas Revitalization Area. Within our budget, we have 5 total funds that we operate out of. There's with each urban renewal area, we have an operating fund, and 2 districts have what is called a debt service fund, and that is the Clackamas Town Center and the North Clackamas Revitalization Area. Encompassing within those 5 funds, we have a total budget request this year of $61,040,247. Within our proposed budget, as you'll see on this graph with the resources, the only district that we have, urban renewal area, that is getting revenue from property taxes is the North Clackamas Revitalization Area. As you see there, it's only 5% of our total budget amount. The other 2 districts, the only revenue that we receive there is through property sales, or we work off of it, already accumulated funds that we have in our accounts. We have this year budgeted 4 full-time employees. As you'll see, it's a half employee reduction from the previous year. Last year, our assistant director had some allocated time through our development agency, hence the half-time employee that we had there. So operating just on 4 full-time employees. Within our 3 districts, you'll see there the Clackamas Town Center, a $10.7 million budget. For this coming year. That includes a $10.12 million in capital outlay for projects That encompasses about 94% of our total budget for the coming year. The highlight within that district is our Clackamas Regional Center Mobility Improvement Project, which will begin construction this next fiscal year. We have $9.8 million of that. $10.1 million is going to that project to begin construction and finalize design. Should note that that project is $25.7 million in totality. We've spent about $3.5 million so far in design work on that project. And the money that we have held in reserve, a large portion of that will be going to the finished construction in the coming fiscal years. The Clackamas Industrial Area is a little over $7 million allocated. Within that amount, $6.75 million is allocated for capital projects. $4.25 million of that is going to be reimbursed back to our transportation maintenance, and that is a reimbursement for the acquisition of what is called the Clackamas Industrial Area Opportunity Site. They contributed funds when we purchased that, and we were reimbursing them in full for that. There's also $2 million allocated in this area to make improvements to Capps Road to help further development opportunities in that area. The North Clackamas Revitalization Area, a large portion of the funds of that $2.54 million, it's about $2.1 million is going towards capital improvements. That's about 84% of the total project budget. We do have a large portion that we allocate each year, about $400,000 that goes towards programs for home stabilization and assisting folks to hook up to sewer systems in that area. It's been quite successful in those programs. We do have about $1.7 million allocated this year to start design on several projects, this being Linwood, Monroe, and the 79th Johnson Creek Boulevard intersection improvement. So we'll start working on design in those areas this year. Here's some of our key performance measures. I'll just highlight a couple here. The primary one here in the town center with regard to the Clackamas Regional Center Mobility Improvement Project. A big focus has recently been to get all of our sidewalks and ADA improvements, or make them ADA compliant. There's a significant deficiency out there. Within our town center district, we have 453 ramps that are fail today. And with our CRC mobility project, we're going to fix 161 of those ramps just with that project. So about 36 of those, 36% will get fixed with this one project. So I think that's a pretty significant improvement there. Within the Clackamas Industrial Area, you'll see there's this current fiscal year, we're projecting about 526,000 square feet of new industrial space that will be going in the industrial area. That's obviously a significant amount. That's as a result of 4 development agreements that we have in place right now with developers. So we'll realize those developments in the next fiscal year. And as you see in the budget, this is one area where we have a budget of about $10 million coming in from the revenue of the sale of the properties associated with these new developments. North Clackamas Revitalization Area, as I mentioned, we just have a pretty significant focus out there on helping stabilize the home residential properties out in that area as well. So we continue to aggressively let folks know that we have these programs available for them. As, with our in totality with all districts, we focus on the capital improvements. We have an 85% target every year. We always look to meet and exceed that, and I think we do a pretty good job of that. We spend a large portion of our funds directly on what we like to call sticks and bricks and get things built out there with our budgeted funds. Emerging issues with Clackamas Town Center, we have very few properties remaining out in this area. So our revenue opportunities for additional projects to be completed will be limited to property sales or to what we already have allocated in our funds. Clackamas Industrial Area, we will have, based on the sale of the properties we have out there, we're projecting to have some revenue that we would potentially be able to use to acquire for phase 2 of the Sunrise on a willing buyer or willing seller, willing buyer situation, but we will have some funds that we can potentially allocate towards acquiring some properties for that. And then with the North Clackamas Revitalization Area, we'll be looking at potentially issuing a bond for the next year to let us or allow us to start working on construction of those projects that I previously mentioned out in that district. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Do I just go ahead and direct it to whoever I need to?
Me first, I guess.
Go
if I
ahead,
can.
Mr. Chair.
My question was, what is stabilization? Are the homes sinking? Or is there like rent stabilization, aid, electrical?
And when I say, yeah, stabilization, it's really about some of the properties out there are deficient in their construction. So we have home improvement loans that we make available to them, and it is something for if there's a safety issue, it's a health issue. Say it's a roof that's deteriorated and leaking, we provide some opportunities for funding to help make it a safe and secure place for them to live.
That's good. In other words, you know, this is one of the more challenging areas in the county. And so you actually keep people in their homes or keep their home from falling apart.
Right, and it has to be the property owner. We don't make those funds available to somebody, for example, that they just rented out. We don't to the landlord. It has to be a property owner that we loan those funds to.
Thank you.
Commissioner Humberston.
Just a couple of comments. I had a couple of questions regarding the park funds, but they got answered in an earlier presentation, so that made it simple. I wanted to say that I appreciate the amount of time that's been spent over the last year in looking at projects that you're going to be doing. That advanced notice, if you will, made it a lot easier looking at your budget to see exactly where we were going on the projects and things, and I really appreciate that those kind of complicated things you spend a lot of time with us on. So just wanted to say thank you for that.
Commissioner Schrader?
Yeah, so the revitalization area, I think that, have we shared how we've been doing that? Because it seems to me it's an area that had some economic issues, and we've been revitalizing the area without gentrification. So have we spread the word about some of the tools and have we managed that yet to other counties or?
Well,
whatever?
as far as spreading the word, I would say that we have newsletters that we send out
Okay.
to the residents out there on a regular basis to let them know the programs that are available to them and the kind of what we've been doing out in that area. We typically don't advertise a whole lot about what we do. And as far as discussions with other folks, I mean, we've coordinated with like the city of Milwaukee and whatnot as far
Okay.
as what we've been doing as well.
But I'm talking about the broader perspective of somehow codifying the methodology and how we do it so we can use it as an example of how to revitalize an area without, as Commissioner Savas often says, the whole gentrification issue. And I remember again specifically that when we started this revitalization district, it was with intent. It was intentional too. It wasn't just a urban renewal district, for some of the other uses. It was an intentional use of those dollars to revitalize an area without gentrification, and that was a big part of the discussion. The other question I have is, again, what I remember is that we had used URD dollars for land acquisition for Sunrise Phase 1. So again, explain to me how it's going to be a little different with Sunrise Phase 2 because we don't have an urban renewal district or we're closing it down. Where are we going to get the dollars? Because that was one of the reasons why ODOT jumped in and we helped get the Phase 1 built was because we really had actively.
Yeah, and we do have
pursued land.
portions of the Phase 2 alignment are within our existing urban renewal district out there in the industrial area. So we've looked at, on a map, what properties may be potentially acquired if they were willing to sell. And there's about 40 to 50 different properties that
Okay.
are within our district boundary that we would be able to negotiate the sale of those or purchase of those if they came about.
So we still have dollars available to do that
We
kind
would
of
have,
piece. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, that was really kind of my question, because not that I won't ever pretend to fully understand how this works, but I do know that there have been pros and cons to it, and this seems to be one of the pros. How longer will that URD be in existence?
Well, we'll be in existence as long as we have projects or some acquisitions that
Okay.
need to be implemented. Again, it always is advantageous if we can purchase ahead of time. Obviously, the longer it takes to purchase those, the assessed value keeps
Yeah.
going up and the appraised value goes up. So if there is a willing seller, that we would certainly be interested in acquiring those, so.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Savas?
I just want to just say that oddly enough, I don't really think that gentrification has been a huge problem, or displacement has been a huge problem along the 82nd corridor where this district is.
Right, because
it just so
we've-
happens to be that it's really about where transportation investments are made is where we see the greatest problems.
Okay.
And in this case, I think the careful application of how it's been done here has been, I think, fantastic.
Yeah.
I think we try to make sure we have transportation connections, local ones, for emergency services and others, and we've done really well with, I want to applaud staff and the cooperation of the parties involved in the fire district, also with how we serve the needs, build assessed value, but do it cautiously
Yeah,
and carefully. I think we've done a
keep
great
people-
job there.
And I would just point out along those lines, and when we do a road project out in this area, we're very sensitive to the fact that we're minimizing any impacts to those residences out there. We're not trying to create a new thoroughfare for people to get through. It's really about getting those folks that live there to and from the services
Yeah.
that they need to get to, so,
Small, modest investments.
yes.
Again, very intentional, really good process.
Ed, go ahead.
We need to do a paper on it.
My question has to do with the ADA crossings. You'd mentioned this as in the Clackamas Town Center area as a major problem. How many are left after your work this year, and will you have sufficient funds to finish them?
There'll still be quite a few. I mean, with the project that we have in place right now, we're only tackling about 36% of the ones that are deficient right now. We do have funds available with that we could apply towards those other places. And it's also coordinating with ODOT as well. ODOT's doing a lot of improvements on 82nd Avenue where they're fixing some of those that are in our account, but they're fixing them with some of their projects as well. It's tough to get to 100%, but we certainly, anytime we even come close. So for example, if we touch the south side of a road with those ADA ramps, we're automatically, even if the project itself isn't intended to go to the north side, we're going to go over and fix the north side ADA ramps at the same time. So the whole intersection is complete at once rather than just piecemealing it. So.
Any further questions or discussion? If not, I'll open the hearing for public testimony. Anyone wishing to testify should begin by giving their name and address for the record. Seeing no one coming forward, if there's no public comment, I'll close the public comment portion of the hearing. Seeing that there are no additional parties wishing to comment, I'll now close that public portion of the hearing. Yes, there we go. Okay. Now I will open the discussion portion of the hearing and take any questions from the committee. Hearing no further questions, I would seek a motion to approve the budget.
I move that the committee approve the 2018-2019 budget for Clackamas County Development Agency as presented, inclusive of the Clackamas Town Center, Clackamas Industrial Area, and North Clackamas Revitalization Area.
I'll second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded that the budget as presented be approved. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. The ayes have it, and the motion is approved. The meeting is now adjourned.